at the end of the semester, I always ask on the survey, like, what is mathematics to you? Like, how would you define it? I recently, last summer, started a research project in field of graph theory and mathematics. And it was because a student of mine who I'd had in several classes and I knew was a good, motivated student, he said, I want to do some research over the summer, like what would you recommend for that? And I knew that we had a research program in the summer at Emmanuel, and I said, well, why don't you and I find a topic that we can research and we'll propose that, and we can do that. So this is not something that I was actively doing on my own and the students kind of joined. We came up with this topic to work on together. We've been doing it for the last couple of years. It's more about connections. So think of a graph as like a network where you have a bunch of like isolated nodes or vertices, and then there are certain connections between them. And a good example I always point to is Facebook. Think of the people individually as the nodes, and if you're friends, you have a link, and those are the edges or the connections. So in that sense, Facebook is just a giant graph. So what we do is we study the game of cops and robbers played on a network like that. And we're wondering if how many cops you would need to catch a robber. Like depending on the size of the network and where the connections are placed exactly, can one cop do it, or is the robber able to get away forever? Do you need 2 cops? Like what's the smallest number that would guarantee capture, even if it takes a while? Do they have a strategy where they could win? We're trying to study like what properties the network could have. Like is a lot of connections good for the robber because he can get out? Or is a lot of connections bad for the robber because the cops can move around freely? There's some sort of balance there. We ended up going to a few conferences and presenting our ideas. So for instance, the 2 students applied and were accepted to the Young Mathematicians Conference at Ohio State back in August of 2015, which was a very prestigious thing. A lot of people apply and they only accept like 50 groups or so. And so we got to travel there and they presented a 20-minute presentation. I've traveled to national conferences to talk about our work too. They've presented some posters here at Emmanuel for the student research presentations. And that's been sort of an ongoing thing. When we started, they were juniors. We did it over the summer. We did it last summer, and now they're seniors, and they're both continuing this work for their distinction projects. And we've submitted a couple of articles to journals that we're still kind of working on and waiting to hear from. But yeah, it's been a fun project. We all really work together. It's very collaborative. It's not like I'm doing my own thing and I'm passing off some work to them. We're all trying to figure stuff out together and write up our results.